welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie Yates, Anya Buile, Steph Anya for short, and I'm a licensed associate marriage and family therapist. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into Chris and Paige, but mostly Chris, and we're going to be talking a lot about narcissistic personality disorder. If you're curious, stay tuned. What's on your mind? So if you've been keeping up with Married at First Sight season 12, the most talked about couple probably in Married at First Sight history are Paige and Chris. I don't know if I would call them a couple. Just based on the definition of a relationship, I'm not really sure that they were in one based on what we've seen on camera. But I want to talk a little bit about Chris because it's been thrown around that Chris is a narcissist. And I feel like in popular culture today, we really just use that word very lightly when we refer to someone as a narcissist. We're typically talking about people who we think of as maybe selfish or really into themselves or vain. A lot of times if somebody seems arrogant, we use the word narcissism, but narcissism is something that can actually be clinically diagnosed. And I want to use today's video to share with you that based on what we've seen on Married at First Sight and based on that alone, I definitely would say that Chris meets the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. I will be comparing those symptoms to behaviors that we have seen on the show from Chris. Before we jump into the video, I want to thank Ana Luisa who sponsored this video. I wear Ana Luisa jewelry all the time. Most of the pictures you see on my Instagram or in a lot of my videos, I'm wearing their pieces. And the reason I love working with them is because I love that Ana Luisa is sustainable, and from their packaging to their pieces, they're very conscious about the environment. I love the quality. I have an issue with getting gold pieces that tarnish really easily, and I wear these pieces all the time and I still have not seen them tarnish. I absolutely love that. And I have a discount for you guys. If you check the link below in my description box, be sure to click that link to check out what they have to offer. So I will talk a little bit about Paige, but honestly, if you are familiar with the dynamics of being in a relationship with a narcissistic person, you would not be surprised by how difficult it is for Paige to just completely separate herself from that situation. I am not saying that she's completely blameless in this situation. I'm just saying that I was very unsurprised by the way that she handled herself in that relationship. And I really do believe that most of the focus should be on Chris because he was giving her very mixed messages, and her being a woman that really values marriage, that being one of her high priorities and values in life. So I really did understand why she was giving him so many opportunities, because the idea of getting a divorce was very devastating to her, especially so early on and in such a public manner. But I think ultimately she did see that being with Chris was probably going to be significantly more devastating, but she gave him as many opportunities as she was willing to do, and I can't really fault her for that. But I do want to talk specifically about what to look for with narcissism. What I'm going to do is do a comparison between the clinical criteria or requirements for narcissistic personality disorder, which I already have a video on. If you're just looking for those symptoms and not the MAFS review, I will put that in the cards. But I will be comparing those symptoms to behaviors that we have seen on the show from Chris, just to drive it home based on what we've seen, that if he were my client, I would definitely diagnose him with narcissistic personality disorder. But again, like I said in my Eric and Virginia MAFS review, these are not my clients. I don't know them in and out, and this is still a TV show. So the way things are edited, how producers speak with people, people's personal triggers, it could possibly bring out the worst side of them, or they could be very cautious and we only see the best side of them. So this is still a TV show, and I am not qualified to diagnose a person that I've never seen. I just want you to have some examples of what these symptoms look like in real life, and we just so happen to have a very clear example of some of those behaviors on Married at First Sight. Without further ado, let's jump right in. So when it comes to narcissism, we are really looking for a pattern of grandiosity. I think of grandiosity in terms of the importance of image, just larger than life, grand, big, pretty much exactly what it sounds like, okay? So we're gonna jump into the qualifiers. You only need 5 of these symptoms to meet the clinical diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder and meet this pattern of grandiosity. So number 1, has a grandiose sense of self-importance. We hear this from Chris from the very beginning. He views himself as a high value man. We see him refer to himself very often as a king, and he expresses a lot of things that he feels like are not in alignment with how great of a person he is.
We married at first sight because I want a woman that is not after me for my money. She's intelligent, submissive, sexy, good in bed, and a freak. I'm a fun, loving guy. I'm loyal, faithful, dope. I'm cool, smooth, charming, very charismatic.
The next qualifier. Typically, narcissists are preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, beauty, love even. And we see this with Chris a lot because he likes to talk a lot about money. Chris originally wanted to become a pastor. It seems like ministry runs in his family, but the reason he left that field, in his own words, is because it didn't pay enough.
I had a family full of preachers that I come from, and I was ordained minister at one point, but I wasn't making any money.
And so that gives us some insight into what Chris's values are. I think what he was attracted to with ministry was that power, right? You can be the leader of other people. But I think when it boiled down to it, his love for money won out over that craving for power. And he probably felt that by being an entrepreneur, he could also get the power that he wanted. And so I definitely believe that the fantasies of unlimited success, power, beauty definitely applies. And I even think about the way that Chris responded when he met Paige at their wedding. And he was talking to her friends and he said she's not a trophy.
Paige is different from the type of women that I'm used to. You know?
So like, what are the type of women you used to?
The opposite of Paige. Like the real prissy girls, pretty girls, but you fronting everything, you paying for everything type thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
gotcha.
so you've never dated someone that's like at your level, like
Paige is so used to dealing with dudes
Like
who
trophy
she's
wives.
but Paige is a trophy wife. That's out the box. But
I don't think she's a trophy wife.
What he was saying in there, and he goes on to explain, is that he's used to having arm candy. He even tells Pastor Cal later on in the season that
we're in the city of Atlanta, and I just feel like there's so many beautiful, you know what I'm saying, black queens, white queens, Hispanic queens here. Out of all the millions of women here, y'all picked the one that was just like,
again, that self-importance. He believes that he deserves to have some woman that meets his specific needs and has no question about whether or not the woman would be attracted to him. The next criteria, he or she believes that they are so unique that they can only be understood by other high status people. And this is where we see Chris typically going to people for counsel, right? And if those people disagree with him, we've seen Chris get very upset. Even people that it seems like he had a lot of respect for, Pastor Dwight, who he went to for counsel. When it seems like people are in disagreement with him, he gets very upset.
My main concern is both of them as a couple. If me and Chris don't mean anything today, that's fine. He knows I love him. However, Chris does not like correction.
yeah, that's bullshit.
He disengages, he gets on his phone and he'll say, you don't understand what I'm trying to do. And he essentially is saying to people, if you don't agree with me, then you're not on my level. You don't understand what I'm trying to communicate. Instead of just saying, well, maybe we just have a difference of opinion, he completely disengages, or in some cases, he'll just antagonize, which we've seen when he's wanted to get into fights with Eric, when he wanted to get into a fight with Pastor Dwight. He can become very aggressive if he's challenged. So that idea of being understood only by by other people who are on your level, I absolutely feel that we've seen that played out on the show as well. Okay, another requirement for narcissistic personality disorder is requires excessive admiration. And this one is a little bit tricky because I absolutely would not put this past Chris, but we didn't see a ton of examples of that. The closest we've seen Chris require excessive admiration is when he was kind of faulting Paige for not responding to him.
I've called you a few times where I was calling to hang out, like you didn't answer at all.
Immediately when he called and she talked about being with her mom and friends and things like that, after he abandoned her after the honeymoon, he never moved into the apartment, but he expected her to be available at his beck and call. And so to me, the idea that he would expect to be admired often, I wouldn't put it past him, but I'll be honest and say that I don't know if we really saw a ton of that on the show. But really that bleeds more into the next requirement, which is having a sense of entitlement. Chris really did not respect the experiment of Married at First Sight. Chris feels entitled to his own perception of a beautiful woman, entitled to Paige answering his phone calls. He felt entitled to even tell the experts at the end of the show that he was choosing not to make a decision.
I think that we are undecided.
Which is not something that has been done on the show, and it's not what this experiment is about. When you signed up for this show, there were certain rules in place. You're supposed to move in with your spouse. He didn't do that. And instead of really committing to 8 weeks with this woman, he decided to say he deserved more and walk away, and then have the audacity to try to just change the entire course and say, well, we're not going to make a decision on decision day. Chris feels he can do whatever he wants and expects everyone else to just fall in line. That sense of entitlement has absolutely shown itself in this show. The next requirement. Narcissists are typically interpersonally exploitative, and that means that you will exploit a person. And I see even Chris's actions and seeking counsel with people, but then blowing up on them and getting upset when they don't agree with him. In my opinion, it seems that he was looking for people that could agree with him on camera so that he wouldn't have to take the blame and show that he had allies that agree with him. But when people said, hey, I don't think this is such a good decision, he became upset because that's not what he came to you for. He didn't really want to know your opinion. He just wanted you to agree with him. Even the way that he treated Paige was very exploitative, having sex with her that first night and then the next morning only to tell her that you don't find her attractive. He used her for her body.
To be perfectly honest with you, like, I think that on paper, like, we are like you're everything that I need, but like, I don't think that the attraction is fully there yet for me, to be perfectly honest.
From what we can see, it looks like he takes opportunities to use the people or situations handed to him, because we clearly see that his intentions may not have been pure in looking for a wife. The next symptom of narcissistic personality disorder is lacking empathy. And we saw this throughout the entire season with Chris. He was so busy feeling bad for himself that he didn't realize or pay attention or care about the pain that he was inflicting on Paige. There were so many times where he was upset with her. There was a time where he said she wasn't considerate of his feelings. I remember right before decision day, he said that in his voiceover, that she wasn't considerate of his feelings.
She has struggled with protecting me and my feelings.
I feel like you're wasting my time and you're pissing me off.
And so his focus on self and lack of empathy for others, it really is hard to watch, because I think we in the audience were sitting there watching with our heart breaking for this woman who really had every intention of making this marriage work, be paired with someone who really didn't seem very considerate about her feelings at all. And the other thing we will always see is him storming off, right? He would walk away and he gets so upset and hurt, and Paige follows him to try to comfort him and make him feel better. And I think he expected that of her. And so Chris was very focused on his own emotional well-being. He'd always talk about his anxiety and having a panic attack, and he was never really checking in with Paige to see how she was doing, and he absolutely, even if he was checking in, wasn't doing much to help her. The next requirement is that a narcissist is often envious of others, and or they believe that others are envious of them. And this is something I think Chris really struggled with from the beginning when he saw the other men's wives. He saw their wives, and I think he was really thrown why he had this wife and they had that wife.
Based on the grooms, I was trying to match who I thought was going to be with who. I was putting everybody with the wrong person. I wasn't right at all.
Even he talked about sitting there and looking at how all the other couples were connecting and they weren't connecting. And those kind of things, I think, are part of what got in the way of him really devoting himself to this process like he said that he would. Chris thinks that he is someone who deserves the world. And if he sees other people having a bit of what he believes he deserves, he has a problem with that. Even the way that he responded to Pastor Dwight talking to Paige, after at that point he'd effectively told her he didn't want to be her husband, he felt like he had a claim on her. And that's where we see that sense of entitlement really showing itself. You told someone they were not good enough for you, but you still feel that someone needs to check in with you before talking to them. Lastly, the person exhibits arrogant behaviors and attitudes. I mean, I feel like this entire show demonstrated Chris's arrogance, him not thinking Paige was good enough for him believing that he's smarter than the experts, making decisions about what he would and would not do on the show when you are not the leader of the show. You're not a producer. You know, you can make decisions about what you're going to do, but you cannot get so visibly upset and try to completely change the process of what you signed up for. Chris, to me, has just demonstrated such narcissistic tendencies, and then breaking it down this way, he definitely met more than the criteria required for narcissism. And I would expect that off camera, the one that he didn't meet, which was requiring excessive admiration, I cannot remember him doing that on the show, but I would not be surprised if that were the case. Chris being preoccupied with unlimited success, even to me, showed itself when he bought his ex a Mercedes Benz. The question was brought up, well, why didn't you get her a more affordable car?
Why shouldn't it be brand new? Like, I'm bringing a king or a queen into the world, so you need to ride in a cheerleader.
Right? So it's not about her. It's not even about the child. It's all a reflection on him. It's most important to him that if someone's carrying his child, they're riding around in luxury. That sense of importance, to me, that also shows that he lacked empathy for how that would impact Paige. It's one of those actions that's going to check off a lot of boxes of those symptoms for narcissism. So that is why I feel very confident that Chris is a narcissist. I can't diagnose him with that. I can't put that on his patient chart, but just looking from afar on TV, he absolutely seems to meet that criteria. As far as Paige, when you're dealing with a narcissist, you often are going to hear a lot of the things that you want to hear. They are very perceptive into how to keep people involved in their chaos. And I think Paige's value of being married, every time there was a glimmer of hope, you know, she hung on to it much longer than a lot of us would have, but we really don't know because we weren't in the situation. I'm not saying that Paige is blameless. I do think that there might be some issues with self-worth and self-confidence that were erupting, but I think the biggest thing that was presenting itself was fear. I think Paige was really afraid of, you know, giving up too soon, of getting a divorce and maybe never being able to get married. You know, Chris really catalyzed and capitalized on her fear by whispering things like, I love you. And we could really do a whole nother video about that narcissism relationship cycle. But I really wanted to focus here, just, you know, people are questioning what's going on with Chris and why is he acting this way. Narcissism is a very egocentric personality disorder, which means that the person's not going to see any problems with themselves. It's everybody else. How many people has Chris gotten upset with or frustrated with? People in his own family, his own pastor, the producers, the experts, because the problem is never him. You know, he will apologize and be tearful.
I feel like I came across as a, probably like an ass, and I wasn't trying to. And I do also owe you an apology because it was just I think my attitude was horrible, and it's not me. I owe you an apology for probably the roughest first week to a relationship you probably ever had.
But again, he knows the things to say and do. We can see with the behaviors and actions that take place right after those apologies, it's not sincere. Even, you know, apologizing to Paige in the reunion special.
I repent to you all for making comments that were inappropriate in nature regarding her, and I also apologize directly to her mom, her dad, and her stepdad.
And then when Pastor Dwight comes in, he gets so upset, so infuriated. It's like, where is the man who just apologized and recognized his own wrong?
Now you gonna stop cussing at me.
Hey, we can get it cracking, bro. I swear to God, bro.
All Pastor Dwight did was agree with things that you just admitted 2 minutes before. That lets you know that it wasn't a genuine apology. He doesn't actually take accountability for those things. He wants to give off the image, the impression of being repentant so that he can save his reputation, which is the most important thing to him. If you're dealing with anybody in your life that shows these same symptoms and you're a Paige who keeps giving them chance after chance or making excuses for them, or God forbid, if you are the person who exhibits these behaviors, be very self-reflective. Take the opportunity to ask yourself, you know, are you always the person who's right and everyone around you is wrong? Because if you can take accountability, I promise you that your relationships can improve and you'll feel less lonely and isolated and feeling that no one understands you. Because some people really can understand you. You just don't like what they're seeing. As for Paige, I get a lot of questions about why is Paige staying? And I do want to clarify, based on what we saw, this was an emotionally abusive relationship. The pain that she suffered and kept suffering, this makes it an abusive relationship from my perspective. If I had a client in this situation, I would absolutely say this sounds abusive to me. And the thing about an abusive relationship is there is a cycle of abuse. I can do a whole separate video on that if you're curious about the cycle of abuse, but it is very common for a person to continue coming back to that abuser. They go through a honeymoon stage and get back together, and it's one of those things that you just see over and over again. Luckily, there was a time limit on this with 8 weeks, but if you watch the reunion, you know that even after decision day, when they decided not to be together, they still make the decision to go into counseling and work on the relationship. And
we did go through some counseling to reconcile and figure things out.
Now it seems like they are not together at all. You know, we don't know, because on average, it can take a person who is being abused in a relationship up to 7 times to get out of that relationship. On average, that's what we see in research. So I'm not surprised to see Paige continuously returning to Chris, because there are just some, I think, unresolved issues that she has within herself, but also things that he is purposefully exacerbating within her that makes her question herself. And if you have a person that's telling you you're not attractive, you're not worthy of my love, and there's a part of you that believes that or receives that, and then they give you the opportunity to prove them wrong on that expectation, we see all the time that a person would go back into that situation just to prove, I am lovable, I am worthy, I can be here for you, instead of recognizing that maybe the person who's setting those standards for you, they might not be worthy of you. So if you guys have other ideas or thoughts regarding Paige and her involvement, maybe there's a diagnosis I missed or something, put that in the comments below. I love to get a conversation started. I love engaging with fellow MAFS fans. Like I said in my Arrogant Virginia video, I've been watching this show since season 1, so I'm very invested. I hope that you guys found this informative, useful, helpful. I ask that you subscribe to my channel, like this video, below, especially if you want more of these videos. Let me know what other things I should do reviews of below. And check out Ana Luisa's great jewelry, already amazing prices, but with a discount. So I look forward to seeing your pieces, and make sure to tag me in them if you wear them. I love to see how you guys style your necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and rings. Again, my name is Stephanie. It's Anya Bouile, Steph Anya for short. I truly appreciate you for watching this video all the way until the end. That really helps me with the YouTube algorithm and everything. So thank you, thank you, thank you.